This morning didn't go as planned. You may wonder why I'm in my bathrobe. Well, there's a really simple explanation for that. Stick around and we'll tell you. Hummingbirds visit our place before the sun comes up, like it did this morning. The weather is cool and Jack really enjoys laying out on the gravel of the pathways. But how did we get here? And why is Jack laying out in the pathway? And why is Isa playing in that part of the garden?
Is there anything living in them? And why does it smell funny? Don't make it worse.
It all started a little before sunrise. Well, that was an exciting way to start the day. It was really terrific seeing those elk out in the yard. If it had been early in the year, we would not have been near as happy to see them because they would have been chewing up the plants while they were young. Instead, it looks like they took a couple of bites out of tomatoes, a bite out of a cabbage. They ate some flowers. They didn't bother the peppers. And they didn't get into the corn that was still standing for some reason. But they did eat the corn stalks that we'd pulled up earlier that were tossed down on the ground. Well, we promised to provide some specific information to a number of you about canning and where to go for specific canning courses and that kind of information. Our best advice is to go to the University of Pennsylvania, I'll put a link in the show notes, to the University of Georgia, again, that will be in the show notes, and the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. There's some excellent materials there. The USDA publishes a 169-page of how to can at home. We strongly recommend that you follow those guidelines. Now, we're not going to tell you don't do it differently, but we will tell you that there's some risk that might be associated with it. We've tried in the past 4 or 5 episodes to provide you with more information so that you can determine for yourselves how much risk you're willing to take. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to specifically talk about. One is Mylar bags and canning food in Mylar bags. Well, if you've ever bought any tuna fish in a bag or smoked salmon, I like smoked salmon. It comes in a Mylar bag that's been pressure canned. It seems like that would be a great way to preserve food at home. Well, there's one problem with it. I can't find any guidance anywhere about how to can safely at home using Mylar bags in a pressure cooker or a pressure canner. It's possible to do, but there's some real reasons why it's not advised right now. And that has to do with how close those packets get packaged together in the pressure canner. I'll go ahead and answer a few questions. We'd planned to do more, but Irene's down in the studio working on some of her enamel work. If you want to see some of that, leave us a note, and we'll include some information about what she's doing on upcoming videos. First question that I really want to address pretty strongly here is you might have some old canning recipes from grandma or great-grandma or somebody else in the family. Are those safe to use? And the answer is it depends. If you look at the recipe and you compare it to what's offered in the Ball Blue Book or the USDA Guide to Home Canning, as long as the same amount of sugar, vinegar, and canning time is followed, you're probably fine. There's no guarantees, just like there are no guarantees in the USDA guidance. It's guidance. It's not a guarantee. There's an old saying, if you want a guarantee, buy a toaster. Well, not anymore, but I think you get the point. The USDA, University of Georgia, and Penn State all have very specific information about recipes they've tried. It's a very detailed and involved process to qualify each of those recipes for home canning. Now, qualifying those recipes doesn't mean that you can always perfectly can at home, although if you follow the guidelines, you're fine. The guidelines from the various organizations have been validated against very detailed scientific measurements. Now, scientific, I mean there are thermocouples, that's thermometers that go into the food in the test run for the canning recipe. The canning recipe will include the ingredients, the amount of time that has to be water bath or pressure canned, depending on the altitude, and any guidance that you need in order to verify that you're being safe. Now, a few of you have asked about canning in half-gallon jars. I've looked all over for guidance from the USDA and other competent organizations, and the only thing I've been able to find so far is guidance to only can acid juice, orange juice, lime juice, things that are very high acid. No pulp, no other ingredients. Part of that reason is because the jar is so large, it takes time for heat to get into the center. And that's one of the main reasons that the USDA does a lot of work on approving or recommending specific recipes. A few of you are new to canning. One question that I get with some degree of frequency when I'm talking to people that I know elsewhere is, I had food leak out of a jar during the canning process, but it's sealed okay. Is it safe to eat? And the answer here is some equivocation. Probably. It's not a guarantee, but it's probably safe. Now, if Irene were here today, she would say, use your nose. if it smells bad, don't take a chance. That's really the case here. Now, one of the things you really need to be careful about is if mold starts growing in a jar. The reason why you need to be concerned about mold is because mold will change the food acidity. It will raise the pH up so it goes out of, or may go out of, the safe zone. Remember, high acid food needs to be canned below 4.6 pH. Otherwise, it needs to be pressure canned. Now, if you pressure can and you get mold, throw it out. Now, in the old days, I'm talking 50, 60, 70 years ago, it was fairly common for homemakers to reprocess food. In fact, jams and jellies that would get mold on the top were frequently reprocessed and canned or jarred up. It's not advisable. We know more now than we did even 30 years ago. So don't take the risk. You know, when you watch YouTube videos on canning, sometimes people will use different kinds of pots for the water bath canner. You can use any kind of pot that you want, but you need to use a flat bottom pot. And that has to do with the way the water circulates in the pot as it's heating up and it's staying at a boil. So if you're going to use something that's not specifically a water bath canning kettle, make sure the bottom is flat. Well, I hope this information starts rounding up more of your canning knowledge. If you have other questions, please leave them below and we'll try to answer them in a future video. We have a lot more questions to go over, but right now, Irene's down doing some animal work. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it right here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications because we always have something going here on our homestead. Thanks for watching. We'll talk with you later. Bye.